Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Bass the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Now, I know it's a bit of a late one today. I've been out for quite a bit of the day. Had to get a little nap in when I got back home, but there's a few things to speak about. We touched on quite a few topics on the casual stream yesterday, so thank you to everyone who joined in to that. That was a really fun one, really great experience, but there's a few things outside of that are worth talking about on this one. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So one of the major talking points that we didn't actually address yesterday on the casual stream is the Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano rematch taking place on the Mike Tyson v Jake Paul undercard, which is, I believe, in Arlington, Texas, and it's going to be premiering live for free on Netflix to anyone who's got the Netflix subscription. That's a great move, by the way, just in that sort of putting it on that broadcast. I know the WWE, they've got a platform deal happening with Netflix starting in January 2025 as well for their Raw, WWE Raw on Mondays. So that should be very interesting also. So I'll be keen to see how this whole live streaming thing sort of plays out with the Netflix app and whatnot. But yeah, look, Katie Taylor, Eddie Hearn basically said that they were, they've been involved in the deal from sort of start to finish. It was a tremendous offer that Katie ultimately, the career best money from what I've heard. And they spoke to DAZN and said, look, we can't stop her from having this opportunity. It wouldn't be right. And DAZN agreed. And that's one thing you gotta rate about DAZN, right? Hate them or love them, we can talk about the price hike in the monthly and the yearly subscriptions that are taking place in May, all of that stuff. But one thing they've not done that I've noticed is hold one of their fighters or one of their athletes back or stop them from boxing on other platforms if the opportunity was right for them. I mean, Sky aren't really doing that. TNT Sports to a lesser extent aren't really doing that. The PBC ain't doing it over in the States whatever channels and platforms they have. Top Rank, ESPN will occasionally do it, but it's never like their biggest stars. It's always one of their B-sides or maybe like one of their C-list stars. It's just they just take a percentage out of. But DAZN, whenever they've got those deals in place, they will frequently let someone move over to another platform in order to make a big fight happen, and they're doing it again here. The fight's taking place at £140, which is kind of funny because if you remember, in sort of the lead up to the fight that they had at 135, Amanda Serrano did make several mentions of the fact that she's not a real 135 pounder. Like, she's at 126. That's where she's most comfortable. She's competed, I believe, as low as 115 pounds as a pro, but she did win a world title at 140 earlier on in her career. So she's not foreign to the weight, but I would admit it is, considerably bigger than where she would normally campaign at. But yeah, I just kind of find it funny that she'll say that, I'm not a true 135 pounder, I had to eat my way up to the weight, blah blah blah. I came in on the day of she said on the day of the fight, she stepped on the scales, I think in the morning, she was like 136 pounds or something along those lines. So it's funny that you kind of use it as an excuse. To be fair, she used it as a bit of an excuse as to, it's not my natural weight, so I'm shooting for greatness, which she did. But then it's like, now you're going up to 140, and not only are you going up to 140, you're fighting again at 10 times 2-minute rounds, when you swore up and down that the only way that you're fighting again in boxing is if it's 12 threes. Now let's not get it twisted. I know that money talks. And the amount of if Katie's getting paid 6, I would assume that Amanda's getting paid similar, if not slightly less, especially being the challenger and obviously having to pay for the privilege to fight the champion. But she's definitely earning a nice comfortable 7-figure payday as well. So if it's not 6, it can't be any less, I reckon, than 3.5, and I would probably hazard a guess to say it's more closer to 4.5. So when you look at it, you say to yourself, all right, well, I can understand money changes principles. But when, you know, you've dropped your belt at 126 pounds because you didn't want to do 10 twos, and, you know, you're only going to fight 12 threes from here on in, and then after you've actually made that stance, the first fight you have back is 10 times 2, I'm not going to lie to you, that does look bad. That looks a bit duckish now in that whole Sky Nicholson story. Now look, let's not get it twisted. I think personally, Amanda, I actually think she KOs Sky. I've seen Sky against much cruder pressure fighters, much cruder people that can apply pressure, and she doesn't like it. And I still think Amanda's got way too much experience and punching power for Sky Nicholson. But that being said, she said that she wanted to fight for her WBC title and the rights to fight for that. She wanted that undisputed shot. She did call it out from a while ago, so I can't say that she never wanted to smoke. She definitely was calling for it. You said you'll only fight 12 threes, and now as soon as you've made that statement and dropped that belt, you're fighting 10 twos again, saying, well, you wanted 12 threes, but Katie Taylor's the champion and she wanted 10 twos, so that's what you're gonna do. All that now means is this has to be Amanda Serrano's last fight in boxing. I have to imagine that, win, lose or draw, unless maybe she wins and then it's a trilogy fight with Katie potentially, and then Katie can have a trilogy there and potentially have a trilogy with Chantel Cameron as well, if that ever takes place. But if Amanda does fight beyond this fight, there she's gonna have no bargaining power at all to talk about, I'm only going to fight 12 times 3-minute rounds, because she's already broken that. And that's going to be the interesting scenario. Now, she's supposed to be in the PFL towards the end of this year. Her fight with Nina Menke was actually supposed to be her last fight in boxing for at least a year, for her to focus on her PFL stuff. But with obviously that not happening and not being rescheduled now, and this big Katie Taylor fight taking place instead, it's going to be interesting to find out exactly sort of what she does moving forward, whether she does move straight back over to, you know, the mixed martial arts and the PFL, whether she does sort of stick around or come back to boxing at some point. But if she does, that whole 12 times threes, that mandate that she was putting out there, it's not looking too strong. So I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on this story moving forward. But yeah, just thought I'd sort of give my perspective on that. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. So it looks like we got a little bit of Terence Crawford news. Now, I'm sure a lot of you would have seen there was a tweet by His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh where he posted the picture of Terence Crawford becoming the undisputed welterweight champion, and Terence reposted with a couple of emojis on it. So rumors are, from what I've heard, is he's signed some form of a 3-fight promotional contract with His Excellency. Now, it's not a Matchroom deal, it's not a Queensbury deal or anything like that from what I've heard, but it's like an agreement that His Excellency will provide him, or will give him the opportunities to have 3 fights, I guess, within the next year, with the first of them supposedly being Israel Madrimov in LA in August. Now, the one thing I will say about the August date, that would then be a year. He would have been 13 months out of the ring. Now, obviously, while Terence Crawford isn't the kind of person that really shows ring rust and those type of detriments and ailments, it is a long time out of the ring, especially for someone who, you know, 2 months later or 3 months later from then will actually be turning 37. So it is a bit of a long time. It advisably, especially after the performance he put in last year, it would have been so much nicer if he was able to have been out again like last year, November, December, or even like February, March, just to keep, you know, just to keep sort of the the engine and the cogs well oiled and finely tuned. But if there's one person I don't necessarily worry about in terms of timings and ring rust and showing major declines, it is Terence Crawford. Yes, a lot of his skills are sort of based on timing and a certain rhythm, but he keeps himself in shape. He's always in the gym working on his craft as well. So it's not a case of he's just been out of the ring for sort of 10 months before the fight comes up, and then he's got a 3-month training camp. He's still always training, always kind of in a pretty good shape. So with that, I don't worry as much. But yeah, it is a long time to have been out of the ring. However, the bag that you get as a result of that is definitely worth it. So that's kind of the rumor that is sort of going along there. And I know Eddie Hearn has spoken several times about sort of the Israel Madrimov fight, and he's also said that he would like Boots, I guess, maybe next year to move up to 154 and possibly even chase that Terence Crawford fight up there. So that looks interesting. But wait, there's a plot twist. Found this out about an hour ago. I think it was courtesy of Dan Raphael, so shout out to him if I think it was from him. But Jamel Charlo, who is the WBA 154 champion in recess, has apparently written to the WBA to basically take his recess status and become the next challenger for Israel Madrimov. That is, so if they accept that in this immediate future, that would then put a big kibosh on the Terence Crawford and Israel Madrimov fight, because Madrimov would be ordered to fight Jamel Charlo. And you guys know, when it comes now, luckily, look, you could easily just set up a purse bid situation to kind of make that a swifter process. But we know that when it comes to like PBC and fighting mandatories and fighting who you're supposed to fight in a timely fashion, things can take a while. So there's no time frame on when that particular petition or order will be put into place. But I think the best possible solution, and this is what I think should realistically happen there, because obviously he hasn't been at 154 for almost 2.5 years now, based on when his last fight was at 154 pounds. He still can have his recess. He can petition to fight and obviously become the next mandatory challenger for Israel Madrimov. But I do think that maybe what the WBA should do, if that's the case, allow Terence Crawford to finish the negotiations that they're having with Madrimov right now, because that was in play first before this petition came in. There's also the potential of another belt, the WBO belt, the vacant title being put on the line, so it being the unification. And then you have Jamel Charlo can be put in a position to face the winner no later than 120 days, 150, or maximum 180 days after that fight takes place. Me personally, I'd say 120 days, 4 months. Let's not delay it. You can have 1 month out of the ring if you need to, another 2 and a bit months training, and get back in there within the space of 4 months if you're Crawford or Madrimov, and then Jamel Charlo knows when he's fighting also. But yeah, that's what I've heard. So you guys obviously let me know what you think about that. Personally, I think that's like possible PBC antics just to prevent Terence Crawford from being able to have a fight in a timely fashion, just like the Errol Spence Jr. Contract situation, where the contract runs out in February, you're supposed to fight in December, and you go and have eye surgery in the end of January, thereby making the time frame run down on the contract. I mean, look, I could be totally wrong. It could be nothing but conspiracy theories, and I could just be PBC hating at this point. I totally accept that. But the optics, that's how it seems. And I don't even know if Jamel Charlo can still make 154 pounds, if he can make that safely or not. But yeah, look, it's interesting nonetheless. Let me know what you guys think about that one. Okay, very briefly, everyone sort of knows my opinions on the 5v5 because we spoke about it quite at length on the casual stream yesterday, how I see the fights planning out. For those of you who didn't see that, just as a quick summary, I think the fights are all good. I do still think that there was some kind of mandate or edict put down by His Excellency stating that there was only certain weight classes that could be picked. Because I still feel like some of the picks and the weight classes that Eddie Hearn and Matchroom chose, while they were fine overall, he had much stronger depth in other weight classes. Like, you know, Queensberry choosing 160 to me made all the sense in the world because they're absolutely stacked in that division. Like them choosing heavyweight made a lot of sense because they're stacked in that division from both prospects and, you know, contenders and like world championship level fighters. Matchroom heavyweight roster is pretty much just like prospects at this moment in time, and then obviously you've got the biggest contender, which is Anthony Joshua, but he was never gonna be on this 5v5 card. Although I don't know why, because he's not actually like he's not scheduled for anything. Obviously, yeah, they're waiting for the winner of Usyk and Fury, but still, it's he wasn't scheduled, so he could have been on there. But outside of that, their roster is wafer thin there. The light heavyweight division, again, even though both sides have got, you know, some okay light heavyweights, Eddie's got two that are, you know, you got Craig Richards, who is basically tried and tested sort of on the domestic scene, sort of European, and definitely has had world level challenges. But after that, you've got Khalil Coe. Callum Smith you do have, but he's not available because he's getting married on the day of the event, so he was a non-starter. Then on the other side, yeah, you've got Anthony Yard, but apart from Anthony Yard, everyone else on the Queensberry side is nothing but prospects. Carol Talma, you know, who else have we got? Like Willie Hutchinson, Zach Parker floats between 168 and 175. You got Ezra Taylor. So it wasn't the strong. That was definitely like the domestic size portion. And then you've got the featherweights, where again Frank isn't heavily stacked with featherweights, but he's got Nick Ball, which is a good one. Eddie's obviously got a world-proven, world-class talent in Raymond Ford, but Raymond quite vocally said he wants to move up. He literally said that I'm gonna stick around this one. It's a quick turnaround. I'm gonna stick around for the money, get that work done and bounce. And then Lee Wood obviously bounce, Josh Warrington bounce, and then I think you've got other people, maybe the likes of Hope. I don't need. Where's Hopey Price? Is he 126 or is he 122? He might be in there somewhere. And obviously Jordan Gill's just moved up as well. So Matchroom side of things to me seemed odd. I knew light heavyweight would be in there because again, I trust Craig Richards against any light heavyweight that Queensberry has, including Anthony Yard. You guys know I stand on that and have stood on that for a very long time. But when you just look at some of the other divisions that Matchroom have, they are totally stacked in some very other divisions, where even if you say there's one or two decent people on the Queensberry side, it would be more heavily favoured for them there. So I've always felt like there was something put in place to say you can't pick this division, you can't pick that division. The only where maybe you get, there's maybe 7. You're allowed to choose from 7 divisions. I've picked the divisions. These are the ones you're allowed to pick. You can pick who you want from those divisions in your stable, but these are the only ones I'm interested in. And then the whole, you know, the wild card thing, I have a bit of an issue with that second heavyweight fight, just because it's not really Matchroom v Queensberry, because I mean Queensberry have got Zhang. He's one of their fighters for he's got one more fight on his contract, which I believe realistically is the rematch with Joseph Parker, and that may even just be a Saudi thing more so than an actual Queensberry contract. But yeah, he had his I think this fight may end up being the last fight on his deal. And he obviously has got the rematch that still takes the place, but you've got that so he could potentially have been a ringer, because maybe the Joseph Parker original fight was the last fight on his 3-fight deal. But then, you know, and then you've got Deontay Wilder on the other side, who, you know, has nothing affiliated with Matchroom in any way, shape or form. And as Eddie has said, this is a literal one. This is a one and done for the time being. So it's not even like, oh well, we've signed him on a you know, a co-promotional deal for, you know, 2 or 3 fights or a year's contract or something. It's literally a ringer for this one show, which to me is what kind of cheapens it a little bit. But with that being said, the fights themselves are all intriguing. There's probably only one fight that most people have thought of as non-competitive or a bit of a mismatch, but every other one is intriguing, and you could make an argument for any of the teams winning. Then obviously we got the captains. So Deontay Wilder was made the captain of the Matchroom team. To me, I think that's a bit, and I understand the reasons for doing it, but I do feel that's a bit in poor taste, when you've got, you know, 4 other guys, well, let's say 3.5, because obviously Filip Hrgović has been signed with Matchroom for the longest time. He was a free agent, but clearly he's been re-signed to work with them now, and I don't know how long that deal's particularly gonna last. But you know, Ray Ford, one of the first of the Matchroom USA stable, that they've taken from debut up to now world championship. He's the first one to make it there. You've got Craig Richards, who's the longest standing Matchroom servant thus far out of I think the entire stable at this point, now that John Ryder's left. And then obviously you've got Ammo Williams, who again I believe that they took either from debut or very close to debut. I can't remember exactly the first few fights, but all of these guys, one of them know Matchroom more than Deontay would, who, as you said, he's a ringer. I definitely would have had one of them as my captain over him, just from an optics point of view. It sort of gives more of a team, you know, like this is a team, this is my Matchroom family, these are the people that I've backed, these are the people that I've championed over the years. And for me personally, I would have made Craig Richards the captain, not just because he's the highest tended servant to Matchroom, not just because like he's someone that I know well and we're brethren, but also because I think he's got the easiest task of everyone on the card. That's not to say it's an easy task, but I think he's got the easiest, and he's got the most probability of winning his fight out of everyone else on the card. So if you want those extra points, to me it just kind of sits as almost a no-brainer. But that's my opinion. You guys feel free to let me know what you think down below. But yeah, look, the fights overall, they are what they were. It's a shame that we all knew what the fights were long before they did the whole press and ceremony thing. There's definitely ways they could have done it better, in terms of, you know, who they're going to choose for the events. I would have just been happy if literally they did a thing where nobody actually knows. You literally don't know who the other person's going to be fighting, so there's no contract. You just put your name, do you want to fight on this card? Cool, you're this pick, you're that pick, and you just keep those secret. Nobody knows about it, and there are no rumors circulating, because only 2 or 3 people on either side would know who their opponent's going to be. And then maybe the only time you find out is about maybe 30 minutes before the press conference, when everyone shows up and you're like, right, you're here, oh, so you're, and then that's the intrigue. To me, that would have been a better situation, but I get it. Promos and all sorts of stuff, logistics, maybe legal paperwork, and that is what it is. But maybe for the one that they're looking to do in September, that might be a bit of a different scenario. So I guess we can wait and see. And last but not least, Alexander Gvozdyk seems very certain and confident that he's going to be facing David Benavidez on, I believe it's the 22nd of June. He said, look, as far as he knows, that's the date he signed for, that's the contract he's applied for. So if, you know, Benavidez is still talking Canelo talks and other, you know, things left, right and center, you know, if he's focused on him, he said that's all the better for me, because that means that it makes my job easier, because he's not focused on me at all. And yeah, he was, you know, he had a drink the other day, but that was a little bit out of camp. He should be fine. I've said, you know what, Gvozdyk, yeah, he was out of the ring for like 2.5, 3 years, but he come back, had 3 fights last year. 2 of them were nothing fights. One of them was like a, you know, what you could call a solid tune-up, but he's in shape. He's, you know, back at the weight, comfortable, nice. I think that Gvozdyk, if that fight happens, I think Gvozdyk beats Benavidez. when we get closer to the fight, obviously I'll do proper predictions. I'll have a look at some of their earlier works together, of what they do well, what they don't do well, both guys. But yeah, if David Benavidez is overlooking him talking about Canelo, talking about Bivol, talking about Better BF, talking about Zurdo Ramirez and all these other different names, and worrying about his promotional stable and not being focused on Vosdik, yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be a bad night. So he needs to get in gear and keep it moving, keep it rolling. With that being said though, I'm gonna cut this video off. I'm sure there's probably some other stuff I can talk about either tomorrow or Saturday, but yeah, basis picks will be out tomorrow. It's probably going to be a very short one. I'm not really that interested in the undercard, and most of you I think already know how I'm gonna feel about the main event, but we'll get to that, and at least we can talk about we can do more of a breakdown and analysis of the fight as opposed to just a prediction. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and think about becoming a member if you are not one. I got a nice interview, a good interview with Jaya Pattaya, which will be dropping on Saturday. It's another one for the channel, so make sure that you guys do come back for that. But for right now, I will catch you later. It's a Hardcore Casual out.